prepared some questions.
I did, and we'll take questions from anybody who feels like asking them as well. We don't have the fancy little signs right now, but this is Josh Heard and David Glidden.
Hi, guys.
Nice to see you guys.
They made the film. They're kind of a big deal. So I was just going to start off the panel with a few questions about some basic stuff, like, did the paranormal spawn the film work, or did it the other way around? Were you into paranormal first and then started film work, or did you like film work and then found paranormal?
For me, personally, I've always been a fan of film. I didn't realize that I could make film until about like 5 or 6 years ago. You know, is when I really got into it. So definitely the paranormal stuff first for me, and then I just tried to translate that onto film as much as possible. So.
For me, it was the Paranormal First. I got into it like 12 years ago. But I didn't start really getting into filming until, I guess, about 3 years ago. When I started doing a web series, and this was actually my first attempt at a feature-length documentary. So,
Yeah. So where did the idea for this specific film start, and how long was it between the first initial discussion of it that you actually started filming?
okay, yeah, I live near Joplin, so around there, the Spook Light there is pretty well known. And I've gone out there dozens of times, never saw it, but it still fascinated me a little bit. And for about a year, I kept thinking about, well, I wonder if anybody's ever shot a documentary on this, if anybody's ever really gone in depth about other lights and stuff like that. And I was kicking it in my head around, and I had Josh come down to the Spook Light to see if we could see it. And, we didn't see it that night, but I started telling him about my idea about the documentary, and he absolutely loved the idea. And we just kind of went from there. We decided, hey, let's go ahead and shoot this thing.
Yeah. It was more like, yeah, let's shoot the movie. I wasn't too thrilled about the camping aspect of everything, like not much of an outdoors.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yes, great, perfect.
The showers.
So you've made other films, Josh, I know. How many films have you made?
I'm up to 9 different films now.
And though you haven't done a feature-length film, you've been filming different things for quite a while now.
Yeah, I've done some commercial work. I've done, like I said, I've got a web series. We're actually shooting season 4 of that, and I've done some concert shooting and things of that nature. So I mean, I wasn't necessarily a rookie with the camera, but this was a big stepping stone for me as far as filming and everything like that goes. And you know, when we were out shooting, Josh told me I was probably going to end up catching the bug, and you know what, I've got the bug. I want to shoot some more. So
The film bug, not a
yeah,
different bug.
well, yes, that too. He told me it was going to be great.
I did say it was good.
So, being seasoned at least somewhat into this, what were some of the challenges you had with this film that you weren't prepared for, that you came across while you were making it?
Honestly, I didn't feel there was much challenge to it.
No, this was like the smoothest process possible. Like, I know with other films that I've done before, like the first documentary, everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. Like up to and including 75% of the crew quitting 24 hours before we were to begin filming. Like it was bad, like super bad. So this was actually, like Dave did a really good job of like putting everything together, kind of mapping everything out, and we shot it right between the eyes, man. It was great.
Yeah, it was more of I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of prep that went into it. We did do some research in locations. We initially had 4 locations that we wanted to shoot, the 4th one being the Glidden Light in Arkansas. Had a really good backstory on it and everything, but with filming 3 different locations that we have, I kind of knew that because we were going to spend a few days at each location, that it was going to be impossible to break it down to, you know, an hour and a half length feature film. And I didn't want to make a 2-hour film about this. I wanted to kind of keep it as simple as possible, yet as informative as possible. So that's probably the biggest hurdle, the main thing.
One of the questions I was going to have later was, were there other places you had hoped to get to, other spook lights or light phenomena that you had hoped to get to, or maybe you plan to get to in the future?
You can answer it.
Yeah. So we've already discussed the idea of a sequel. This time, taking it about 5 steps farther. I don't know. Do you want to discuss the locations, or?
Well, I mean, it's not. We can. One of the ideas was returning to the Brown Mountains. An idea that we had was, since there's 3 peaks that were of interest, especially there at the end where we saw the lights, we wanted to do something where we can cover that entire area, each of those mountains, and try to get even closer experience to this, and maybe we could perhaps be able to find some kind of resolution. But there is another place, I guess we can talk about the place. It's in Norway. There's a research facility that is built underneath where a light anomaly happens. And it's actually government funded. It's a scientific research facility. And they're completely dedicated to actually researching the light. And our thoughts were, if we can get to that town and try
We're just
to
gonna knock on the door.
please come in. You let us in. If we can get in with the research facility and kind of hang around them for a couple days, and find out what they've learned and see what we can learn from them, and bring that to the masses, to people that are interested.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's good.
All right, so you said there wasn't a whole lot of challenges, but everything's a learning process. What's something you guys learned about filmmaking while making this film?
I learned how to pitch a tent.
That's not filmmaking.
Sort of.
As far as like filmmaking, like you're always learning something as far as filmmaking goes. No matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, no matter how long you've done it. Dave and I tend to kind of mesh well together because we do a lot of what's called like run and gun type filmmaking, where you just have a camera and you're just pointing it in a general direction and hope to God that whatever it is that you're capturing is somewhat interesting, But I mean, so you're always constantly learning different things. You're adding to your own personal style. I don't know. Everything's a learning process for me anyway.
I think the biggest thing is you never have too much B-roll.
That is very, very true.
But also learning the camera a little bit more was one of the biggest things that I got to learn from this. It wasn't, like I never went to film school. So, and it's not really required for anybody to go to film school. Film school is just a way for people to connect, make connections. Most of the stuff you learn at film school, you learn on YouTube, and that's what I do. That's where I go. I go on film rights, other shows, and learn there, and that's kind of where I've picked up any technique that I've got or style that I have. I'm just kind of growing into it. But learning the camera, learning what settings work for what lighting and all these different issues, started working out throughout the film process.
I have one question I know that Josh wanted to answer. He told me to ask this question.
To Dave.
Boxers or briefs?
Dave?
Do you want me to give you my answer that I gave you?
Well, you answered for David, and Dave, you guys camped together, you should know.
We had separate tents, man.
Yeah.
That was another one of my questions. Why didn't you save a little bit of money and share tents?
Save money.
We only paid for one spot though.
Yeah.
Actually, we only paid one time for a camping spot.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the cost of the tent.
Yeah,
Anyway.
It was on sale.
yeah, my tent was on sale.
Yeah.
About
Well, there
$40.
could have been a little, my next question, there could have been a little animosity if you guys stayed in the same tent. Was there anything on this journey that you disagreed upon, that you guys kind of went back and forth on, maybe fought about?
I don't think we did.
No.
I don't think we fought at all, really.
I think we laughed too much during the
Yeah.
whole process because we're a couple idiots.
So that little piece of film that you guys saw in the movie, actually, where we're stopped at the gas station and I say that we all have to poop, that was never supposed to be in the film. In fact, like that's the only thing I've yelled at Dave about, actually.
Yeah.
Like that was just me being a butthead, trying to give him a chuckle while he was editing everything. But Dave, being Dave, decides that it's probably a good idea to make the final cut.
Yeah, let's put that in there.
Yeah, why not?
Let's talk about a couple of the things that are in the film. One is, whose kids were they, and why did you not let everyone know that they were in fact, or why did you let everyone know that they were in fact not yours?
It's not anybody's.
Just.
I didn't understand that shirt, or why you chose it. What is that shirt from?
Dave's shirts in this film are amazing. You have to really pay attention to the shirts. It's great.
So everybody I know has kids. I don't have kids, so that's one thing about that shirt. And if you're a single guy, if you don't have kids, if you're around people with kids, and the kids are going to hold your hand while you're walking around the place, you want a shirt like that to let everybody know it's not your kid.
Not your kid.
Okay.
I'm not responsible for other people's kids.
Also, you got really super kind of excited, like double rainbow excited.
Yes, I did.
When you saw the light. Can you explain your feelings a little deeper during that moment? Because you were super excited, and we could kind of see why, but you could definitely tell that it wasn't just for the filming. You were super excited to be there at that moment.
Well, two reasons. The first reason was we were pretty pissed off that we weren't catching anything.
Right.
We had an experience at Joplin where we saw something, but we didn't catch it because it happened in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And like I couldn't pick up a camera fast enough. And we were so mad because nothing was happening, nothing was being captured, and being that it was the last night that we were out in North Carolina, if we didn't capture something, that could make or break the film. I don't think the film would have turned out as well as it did if we didn't capture that.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that really got me excited. And the second thing was, we didn't expect to even see them. And for it to show up and for it to correlate with all the other experiences, the vast majority of the sightings were of a red light, and for that red light to show up over the mountain and actually move off the mountain into the air, that was pretty amazing. And you hear Ed Phillips talking about his experience where they were out there, they saw a light, but they were just so flabbergasted by it that they didn't even think to pick up a camera and take a picture. Well, that's how everybody else described their experience there, and we were just lucky enough to have our cameras, and that's why I was excited.
Do any of you have questions? Sam here has a microphone if anybody wants to ask them questions.
Yeah, he's like,
I do have a question. So you've got the film in the can now, this project's done, we've got plans for maybe a future one, but what's the future of this film now? You guys are here talking to us about it, you're going to be maybe some other events talking about it, do you shop it to some sort of festivals that would cater to this type of thing?
So over the next couple months, we're going to continue on with the tour through mid-April-ish, and then release it officially to the masses, so to speak.
Yeah. One of the main places that's going to be released to is Amazon. We're going to make it available for direct download, video on demand, and also selling DVDs through Amazon. There's a couple other streaming websites that we'll probably go through, but we've been also talking about some other options. We're just kind of waiting, testing the waters with it, just kind of holding our breath on. Turn it off.
What do you guys think it was? What's your opinion? And you gotta like break it down and go, okay, we
See, that's
went
what's
all over the place and saw them.
That's what's interesting about it. So, like, specifically talking to the people in North Carolina, we heard a claim of, I forget if it was like a father and son that were out there, more or less like in the gorge itself, on the level ground, and they saw it approaching them. And what was interesting is it was coming right at them, and it seemed to stop and then go around them, and then continue on the path it would have been
Like
on.
what you said with like intelligence.
Exactly. Like like it had some form of intelligence. Like that to me would suggest that. I don't know, like it's so interesting, like what it could be, what it is or is not. I don't know, man. Like it's a great question, but I don't have an answer to at this point.
Why didn't you speculate in the film what you might have thought? You just didn't want to do that?
No, there was no reason to kind of sway anybody to any particular position on it. I wanted it to be open-ended like that, just so people would make up their own minds, maybe get curious about it and go investigate it themselves.
How did this stack up to other experiences you've had? You guys are both investigators.
Right. So, and that was one thing that I didn't know how I was going to react seeing it for myself, if we were in fact to see it. I will say, like, I wasn't afraid. Like, that was one, I guess, I was afraid of. I always think that if I get scared and I'm on camera, like I'm gonna look like a fool, like when that happens. So, I will say, like, it was more of just that shock factor, like, oh my God, like, this is all happening right now. Finally, we're able to see this, document this.
Now, with comparing it to like the other stuff I've done in the paranormal, and I'm sure Josh and even Jason would probably feel the same way. Comparing it with other stuff in the paranormal that we've done, usually we investigate hauntings. This is a kind of a unique aspect of the paranormal field. And when we talk about the paranormal field, it's a general term. Paranormal field is just things that we don't understand or can't explain. And you know, that could revolve around UFOs, it could revolve around Bigfoots and other cryptids, and this is just something that never gets talked about, and to actually go out and experience it, it's new territory. I think trying to compare it to like ghost hunting and stuff, it doesn't do it justice. It's got its own appeal.
When you guys were at the lighting in the highway, I think you guys know that some paranormal stuff that those can actually take energy from electronic devices, so that might actually would have been happening when you guys hit zero. The light.
Oh, when we were out
With the
with
EMF
the
detector?
EMF?
Yeah, that might have what have happened is that you guys, so maybe if you get like your, to see what energy's around, you might just want to put that out next time and then we see that.
The other thing people really don't realize is that the Earth has its own field that can be detected in pockets.
True.
And with the road, I don't believe it was anything natural per se. Being that it was, we walked that road and we were still getting EMF on the road. But anytime Josh got near the power lines, the EMF disappeared. Which was the oddest thing, because you would think getting near the power lines would go up. But, and I thought at one point, and that's why I showed the radio tower, was I figured maybe the radio tower's got something that's kind of screwing with our millimeter, and getting close to the radio tower didn't change it at all.
So it was pretty interesting, like how that all went down.
And we were almost killed by it. We had one charge us as we were walking down the road. I didn't put it in the film because I didn't shoot the whole.
Should have put that in the film.
You just didn't want to show us your reaction.
Yeah, I started walking faster.
I was fucking terrified.
All right, I have one final question. Oh, go ahead.
I just thought with the EMF, it could have been two opposing
Yes.
fields cancelling each other.
Yes, exactly. I just didn't know where the other one like would have potentially even been coming
Yeah.
from. It was so weird because there's nothing out there. Like, there's nothing out there.
Now, something I do want to add about the Joplin thing. I'd actually investigated out there with another paranormal team back in 2009, and this is a point of interest I wanted to include in the film, but getting the audio from the team, they didn't get to me in time. But we'd actually captured EVPs out there on the road of little kids saying things like, "Come and find me." That road, there's actually been kids that have died out there from being run over because people park their cars on the side of the road, and the kids, teenagers, will do stupid things out there. They've done, some people claim, satanic rituals out on that road. There is 2 documented teens that have died out there from being run over. In fact, the first night we were out there, we were stopped by the police, and he was telling us about some of the deaths that happened out there. So I do have an EVP, but it's not mine to be presented. I would have loved to put it in the films to show you guys, but like I said, they didn't get back to me in time. So there is that aspect.
I've had a few crazy encounters out there on that, and not paranormal wise.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that go out
There
there
is.
and do a lot of drugs to try to see the lights.
Yep.
And it's
There's
fun.
a really cool sound clip that we have on the Ectoplasm show. What does it say exactly?
Sherman Williams don't have shit on this.
That's what it
That's
is.
what Stoner
So this
was.
guy, this stoner, was out there, and he was observing what he thought was the Joplin Spook Light. Yeah, Sherman Williams don't have shit on
Yeah,
this.
that's
Like,
fun. That's 5 years ago.
it's amazing.
So my last question is specifically for Josh, just to poke at him a little bit. How was camping? You looked pretty rough on that little video right after the first
I look pretty
night.
rough because, okay, like, people don't understand. Yeah, I'm not an outdoorsman at all. And I'm a weirdo. Like, I'll take probably 3 showers a day. No lie. So, like, I feel uncomfortable right now because I haven't showered in the last 6 hours, right? Like, it's, so that was rough for me, like, not having a shower for like 3 days at a time. So when we were in North Carolina, I insisted that the campground we went to had a shower facility. And it did, but I mean, the water that came out was about 6 degrees cooler than the surface of the sun itself. But I really, beggars can't be choosers, right? So, but yeah. we
That's
got
all the
through it.
questions I have. Any other questions out there?